Well, hey there, it's Monday and time for Monday Mastery, and I'm author and dating coach Rick Sodebeer, and I'm your host tonight, and I am here to help you with your dating and relationship questions and concerns, and just help you move through the world of dating in a little more efficient and effective manner. So anyway, well, as you can see, for those of you that have followed me for a while, you can see that I am in my northern command post in Ironwood, Michigan. This is my dad's old office, and so I come up here, and I'm still in the process of working on the studio and getting that straightened around. I was hoping to be in there today, but there's just so many things and so many little details. So and excuse me, this is not my normal desk, and things just bounce around. So bear with me. So I apologize if the screen gets a little bit shaky, but I promised a couple of folks I'd share with you the progress that's been going on. You probably saw this picture last time I was up here, and I'd done some painting and didn't like the finish on the color and the finish on the walls. I liked the color. I loved the color, but it just wasn't the right finish. So I started playing around, and the creamier color was still the wrong finish, and so it was just a lot of horsing around last time. And you can see I started doing some painting again today, and you can see a little bit on the right hand side there, the gray, and now I'm painting the whole thing in gray, which is going to be a better studio color overall. And there's one wall completed. So anyway, that's just a little bit of an update for you, and there'll be some additional things that go on in that room. There'll be more lights. There'll be more more of my video equipment will be up, so I can jump from live Facebook lives like this to recording and doing some serious, well, not that this isn't serious, but where I can do some what do I want to say? Do some just some recording. So anyway, that's a little bit of an update for you. And let me get back here. Hey Liz, thanks for joining. And thank you. It's still got a little bit of work to do and a little bit of work to go, but I'll be glad to be out of this space and into something more permanent where I can leave my lights up. I don't have to take my cameras down and my teleprompter down and all of the other stuff that goes along with setting up every time. And so that will be nice, and hopefully next week that will be all together. I may not have it all decorated, but we'll see. So anyway, I wanted to over the weekend I had a couple of comments made to me, and then earlier today my Facebook post just kind of it seemed to have ignited some interest, some controversy, some whatever. And please forgive me, several of you made comments, and I was going to try to write your names down. I just didn't get a chance to get your names written down, because I did want to address certain things specifically, or to specific people. But today I wanted to really talk about I hear so much from you all about, oh well, I don't want to do any online dating. I'd rather date organically, or and other people turn around and tell me, oh yeah, I just as soon date online. It's much easier and much cleaner. And so it got me to thinking over the weekend, what really are the differences between online dating and organic dating. And and I'll let you guys, please pipe in and tell me what your thoughts are. I know some of you are just absolutely dead set against online dating. Excuse me. And others, yes, yeah, it's okay. Or, yeah, no, it's not my favorite, but I do it just because I can. And it seems, for some people, it just seems to be an easier way to meet people. And really, that's what what dating should be about, is getting out and meeting people. And however you do it is just fine. But my concern with a lot of people is that they blanketly say, "No, I'm not gonna do online dating. There's no good people online. There's nothing but scammers. There's nothing but bad profiles." Well, there are those. And I hear most of that kind of stuff from ladies, but I hear it from guys too. And the reality is that you get what you find, or you get what you look for. If you want to find bad profiles, I guarantee you'll find bad profiles. If you want to find great profiles, I guarantee you can find great profiles. It's all a matter of what you're looking at, what you're focusing on. Now, I've clearly, in the last month or so, I've clearly seen some very, very deliberate, very, very sketchy online dating profiles. And it's going to happen. But it's on us, it's on the user, it's on the consumer to make sure that we're the ones that are aware of what's going on. We're the ones that have to, as the old saying goes, caveat emptor. I'm probably slaughtering my Latin, but it's the buyer beware, and it really is that simple. If you're going to participate in the online dating market, you have to beware of what the latest scams are, and that you can do an easy search in 10 or 15 seconds. You can start pulling up all kinds of different scams, and the FBI will notify you, or not notify you, but you can go to the FBI website and they'll tell you what the latest scams are, and they'll tell you how to prevent it, what things you should be looking for, and what things to just simply walk away from. So again, for those of you that want to chime in, please share with me what your thoughts are on the difference between online dating or what nuances there are between online dating and organic dating. Because quite honestly, when I look at it, I see more similarities than not. I find that you still have to get to meet somebody. You still have to go out with somebody. You still have to get dressed and go on that first date. You still have to make that first phone call. And whether you're doing it online through an online service, or whether you're doing it organically, where you're not doing anything online, you still might meet somebody through a meetup group, which or some social organization where you might reach out to somebody and say, "Hey, I'm heading to this event. Would you like to join me?" Or you meet some, and there are other ways of meeting people, but the idea is that there is more similar to me than there is dissimilar. Yes, you have the ability of with online dating, you have the ability to scroll through a lot of profiles in a hurry. And these are probably people that I can almost guarantee you would never run into or never cross paths with in your daily walk through life. And to me, that seems to be an advantage that online dating has over organic dating, because I can go through a lot of profiles. I can make a connection in a very short period of time. Whereas if you're going out and I don't want to say looking for a date, but if you're going out and you have to go out to meet people. And so let's just take a look at some of the time stamps or the time volume required there. It's going to take you, especially ladies, it's probably going to take you an hour to get ready, or to get cleaned up and dressed up and makeup on and whatever outfit you're going to wear for the night. Then it's going to take you, probably, depending on the area, and I'm using Kansas City as an example. It will take you half an hour to 45 minutes to get wherever you're going, and then you're going to have a couple of drinks. You might meet a couple of friends. So already, you just to get in the door, it's taken you, let's just say, an hour and a half. Whereas at home, you've already gone through, done an hour's worth of research. Now, when you get into the venue, the bar, the club, the meetup group, whatever it is, the social event, it's still going to take you time to mingle, to get to have a couple of conversations. And how many of you and how many of those conversations are actually going to lead to something? I mean, unless you're absolutely focused on finding a date, you might have some nice conversations, but you're going to have, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 minute conversations, or maybe a 20-minute conversation, say, nope, this isn't going any further. This isn't even going to make it to a date. Hey, Geneva, thanks for joining in. Let me grab your comment right here. Geneva says, I just got back from a camping event of 65 signals, and it was absolutely great. We hiked, had a dance party, bonfire, etc. But I honestly feel, my eyes are small today. I honestly feel you get to see the person in their element versus seeing reading a profile. I agree, and I'm not going to say that online is perfect, but I think that well, I'm going to challenge you on that one, Geneva. I'm just going to challenge you just to think about this, and you may agree, you may not, and it's okay. For most of those people, and let's just remove the people you already know from the equation. Do you think they're more likely to be on their best behavior on an event like this, or do you think that they're just going to tear up the weekend and let their hair down and be who they are? So I just want you to think about that, because I can see where it's a great casual weekend. It's a great way to have casual conversation. But how many of those people are actually not on their guard, or have their hair down? Now, and I don't know the group, so I don't know what it's about. If it's 65 people that came from a church group that all knew each other already, or 65 friends, single friends that got together. Or a meetup group where everybody already knew each other. So I don't know. I'm just asking, what the possibilities are that some of those folks that you were with were not letting their guard down. So there are possibilities in any number of directions. But I agree, and that's Geneva. Those are, and I want the rest of you to observe this. Geneva did something really cool. She went out on an event and with 64 other people and had an awesome time. But it was something that had to be a little more planned, a little more choreographed, so to speak, because you have to, it's an all-weekend event. So these are the types of things that I so highly encourage you all to take a look at. Maybe camping isn't your thing. Maybe canoeing isn't your thing. But there are other events. There are other things like this that you can do. And it doesn't take a lot of money. It doesn't take a lot of effort, and it's a way of getting out and being social and mingling. Now, that being said, there again, there's with a group of 65 people. For those looking at the sheer numbers, how much time did you actually get to spend with each person? I mean, did you get any quality time? Did you get to focus on getting to know somebody deeper? Whether it was on a romantic level or just on a friendship level. And Geneva says it's a single, solo, and support group out of I'm assuming that's supposed to be Michigan, called MITT. Okay, that's cool. Let me just. And again, I want to pat you on the back, Geneva, because I think that's an awesomely cool event. Hey, Glenn, thanks for joining in. Glenn says, I like online because you're one-on-one with someone, and you usually know if you want to meet again or move on. Well, and that's one of the advantages, Glenn, that I like, that it at least for me personally. And now I know some of you just absolutely hate online dating, and that's okay. I'm not trying to convince anybody to do anything, but I just want to make sure that everybody examines all of the possibilities, as opposed to downplaying any of them. Now, another aspect of this that I really want to dive into also is that there are, and I ran into this. I had the conversation with a dear friend of mine this afternoon about this very thing, about abdicating responsibility for dating, or abdicating responsibility for your dating life. And my point here, or my illustration, is people that will say that, well, if it's meant to be, God will bring them to me. And I totally agree that should be part of the equation. But you also have to be a participant in this process. Hey, Phil, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you're here. And if you're not a participant, you're along for the ride, which means that the odds of you finding your soulmate or your extraordinary relationship are go down dramatically. And it's I harp on this, but it's so true. We have to take responsibility for our dating lives. A lady made a comment, and please forgive me. I've came across so many names and so many comments today that I wanted to call this one out. But she asked, she mentioned that she would love to have her extraordinary relationship, but where is she going to find it? And it goes back to, what are you looking for in a relationship? What are the things that you want? What are your must-haves and what are your deal breakers? And then step back from those lists and say, okay, where am I going to find somebody with these types of characteristics? Are you looking for somebody that is athletic? Are you looking for somebody that is crafty or creative, is good with their hands or her hands? Men can do woodworking or cabinet working. Ladies, I've seen some of you make some incredibly adorable or gorgeous quilts. Knitting. I've often admired women that can look at a pattern and start knitting, and pretty soon there's a sweater. It's amazing to me. Hang on, let's see. And Geneva says, I think that's why I've joined the group, because I still have high walls up and I'm just having fun for now. And Geneva, that's an awesome spot to be, when you know that you're not ready, when you still have very high walls up. It's time to get out and be social and learn that there are people out there that can be nice. They can be good people. And it's not a matter of going out and having to find somebody to be with. I like your approach. I think you're doing really well at getting out and doing something unique, doing something fun. It just might happen that you might come across somebody that says, yeah, this guy has potential. Let's see where it goes. And then, one thing leads to another, and away you go. But you have to be open to the possibilities. You have to take responsibility for your dating life. And in Geneva, in your particular situation, you have to be responsible for going out and just being social. And just like you're doing, going out and going on a weekend camping and canoeing trip. What an awesome way to go. What an awesome event to attend. Is it something that you have to do every weekend? Yeah, maybe not, and maybe yes. If that's what you enjoy, that's terrific. But again, you have to take responsibility, and you also have to be responsible for recognizing your own emotional well-being and whether or not you're ready to start searching for that extraordinary relationship. Now, and I know, Geneva, you've kind of drifted in and out a couple of times, and whatever situation has presented itself, for the most part, you seem to have handled it really, really well. So I'm proud of you for that. And it's a matter of recognizing what your limitations are at the current time, and recognizing that you eventually need to move forward and start developing or disassembling, let's put it that way. Start disassembling that wall that you have built up around you. And that takes time. That's not something you can just say, oh, I'm done. I'm done with my walls now. Let's go out and start dating. No, it takes some time to figure that out. And and it's something that you are going to have to come to terms with, from the standpoint that if you ever want to get better, you have to start recognizing that those walls do have to come down. And the only way to do that is to start chipping away at them one block at a time, or one stone at a time. And the reason those walls have to come down is that these walls that you've created to protect your heart are going to be the same walls that keep out the love that you're searching for. So there's a fine line there of how long do you keep that wall up, and how long do you nurture yourself. And there may come a point in time, Geneva, where you just have to say, okay, enough is enough. It's time for me to get out there. And the hardest thing to recognize, or the hardest thing to deal with, is knowing the possibility that you can get hurt again. But if you're paying attention, if you've got your must-have list, if you've got your deal-breaker list, if you know what you bring to the table, you know the qualities that you have, and you understand what the four cornerstones of great relationships are, those are all things that are going to help you move forward in a much more effective way. No, you don't have to hit a home run out of the park, the first time you date. You are going to stumble. You are going to fall. We all do. At least I do. When I date, I can guarantee you I make mistakes. I can guarantee you that I trip over my words, or my tongue, or there are times that it sounded a lot better in my head than when it came out of my mouth. It was a lot funnier, or a lot more pithy. So we have to learn to accept that part of it. And Geneva says, let me get caught up here real quick. Geneva says, thank you, Rick. That means a lot. I have come a long way. Yes, you have. I'm 3 years out of my 20-plus year relationship, and doing really well. Yeah, see, you still have a little bit of time yet. You're just getting to the point where it's okay to start feeling comfortable in dating situations, and there are still things. Geneva, I've been divorced for 13 years, and every so often I still come up with things like, holy crap, I didn't know that was hidden underneath there. So it takes time, but you're getting to a point where you should have most of the bulk of your work done. Doesn't mean that it's all done. It says, yes, that's the hardest thing for me is, I think, getting hurt again, or blindsided with something. Well, and Geneva, now, with what you know now, the being blindsided shouldn't be as much of an issue as it was 2 or 3 or 5 years ago, or when you first started dating 20 years ago. And so that's something that you have to remember, that you're not starting from scratch anymore. You have knowledge, you have experience that you didn't have when you first got out of when you first got divorced. So you've got 3 years behind you. You've got a couple of relationships, albeit short-term relationships, under your belt, and you should be a little more aware, especially after attending, as many Monday Masteries as you've had over the last couple of years. You have a good leg up on a lot of people, because hopefully you know what your must-have lists are. You know what a healthy relationship should look like. So you're not having to go back and start from the very beginning again. You know, if you crash and burn, you crash and burn. It's never fun, I admit it, but it's not like having to go all the way back to the beginning. No, you start where you pick yourself up and where you left off and start moving forward, or continue moving forward. And Geneva says, I realize I need to stop trying to be so independent. No, well, it depends. I mean, if you're independent to a point where you're not letting the guy do anything for you, or you're not letting anybody help you, and you're keeping some boundaries up that way, then yeah, you need to lighten up a little bit. But when you start meeting somebody, when you start dating somebody, you have to learn to let them in, let him be a, for lack of better terms, a white knight for you. And it doesn't mean he has to sweep you off your feet, but he has to be able to do things. He has to be able to see that you appreciate what he does for you. And I mean, if it means of no value, or if it is of no value to you, then he's going to move on. And the worst thing that we can do is to neglect the people that are making an effort. And now, depending on the effort, some of those efforts can be a little iffy, but the whole idea is that when you go out and you start meeting people and start connecting with other singles, you can start observing them in their environment. And it's important to be able to share, to be able to share as you get to know somebody, be able to share your lives a little bit, at least in the beginning, just a little bit, to see, well, is he going to take the garbage out for me, or is she going to cook dinner, or whatever it might be, just simple stuff. The first couple of dates don't have to be first few dates don't have to be anything dramatic, but it has to be at a point, you have to get to a point where you can start letting people in and doing things for you. Geneva, if you're going to cook dinner for a guy, and he comes over a little bit early, let him help. If he's so inclined, let him help. Don't make your kitchen your fortress where he's not welcome. Let's see. Let me catch this real quick. Glenn says, I find in large groups, women gather together, and as a man, it's hard to get talk to a certain one. I would like to talk to. Yeah, and here, ladies, this is a perfect example. And whenever you're going out and you go out in a large group, you make the barrier very high for guys to access you. And so, and don't misunderstand me. It's you guys always love to go out and have a good time, but there should be a couple of times when just 2 or 3 of you go out. Because if you get 6, 7, 8 ladies, you put up a barrier around yourselves, and it's almost impenetrable, because then you're starting to feel awkward because he's hanging around, and he's feeling awkward because he's trying to have a conversation with you, and your girlfriends want to snag you away from him and say, "Nah, leave him alone." So there are times when and Glenn, there are just times that, yeah, it'd be nice to get to meet her, but it's just not a good time. Now you can go up to her and ask her and say, "Hey, I've noticed you. I'd like to dance with you, but I see you're with your girlfriends and having a good time. I don't want to interrupt. How about if we get together for a cocktail later this week? Or how about if we meet for coffee and get to know each other? And just throw that out there. Sometimes it's as simple as, I'm going for a cup of coffee. Would you like to join me? So it's at times you have to take the initiative, but ladies, sometimes you set the hurdle or the barrier so high that it becomes very difficult for us to get through. And Geneva says, yes, I have that non-negotiable list close to me. Okay, now I'm glad you brought that up. You've got the non-negotiable list, but what about the must-have list? That's more important than the non-negotiable list, because if you followed, and this is for all of you that may be new here, or maybe listening to this later, you need a must-have list. These are the characteristics or the traits you want in a relationship that are non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. And same thing with your deal breaker list. Those things are non-negotiable. And the must-haves should be a much longer list than your deal breakers. And if you've got a long list of deal breakers, Geneva, then that's where you might be running into some problems, because what happens is that you end up focusing on the negative aspects of a relationship. These are the things that I don't want. When I start working with people, especially for the first time, and I say, well, do you know what you're looking for in a relationship? They'll start saying, yeah, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want that. Well, they have a list of deal breakers that's all that they focus on. And studies have shown time and time again that whatever you focus on is exactly what you're going to attract. So when Geneva, if you're looking at solely at your deal breaker list, and I may have misread that. It is non-negotiable list. So just make sure that those non-negotiables are must-haves, and that the deal breakers are also non-negotiables. So I apologize. But again, just want to make sure that you're focusing on the positive aspects. Must have pretty teeth, must have pretty hair, must have a job, must have whatever it is, must be physically active, must be smoke free, must be whatever it is. And it needs to be written in a positive format, so that it's not going to fall back on a negative on a negative thought process. Because if everything is, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want this, I don't want that, then everything is going to be, everything that you don't want is going to be what's going to be appearing in front of you. I keep telling you guys about, you go out and shop for a car. Go out and look at any car, and then and fall in love with the car of your dreams. And then what do you see on the way home or around town for the next week? You see that car in that color. It's because that's what your mind is focused on. Your mind doesn't know that you don't already have it. The mind already assumes that it's yours. It's just a matter of, you got to go sign the papers and figure out how to pay for it. That it is as simple as that. Obviously it takes, it takes more negotiation, and may take more savings, more whatever. But that's how those things materialize. If you're not thinking about it, it's not going to come together for you. And that's why it's so important to have your must-have list and your deal-breaker list. And again, these are all non-negotiable, like Geneva said. So it's we have to be very cognizant of what we're focusing on. And dating is it's all about a process. It's all about knowing what you want and not being willing to settle for anything less. It's understanding what a healthy relationship should look like. The intellectual connection, the spiritual connection, the emotional connection, the physical connection. It's about speaking. To me, it's also about speaking similar love languages. You get those things connecting, and then you have that magic sauce of chemistry, and it all comes together. But it takes time, and this is not a process that you can have 4 or 5 or 6 dates and say, "Yep, I'm done. I found him or I found her." It just doesn't happen that way. It would be nice to only have to go out 4 or 5 times with a handful of different people and find the one. It just unless you have a movie producer or a playwright to write the lines and write in the right characters, and it's not going to happen that way. It takes time, and it takes effort, and it's a continuous effort until you find somebody that has possibilities. Hang on, let's see what Geneva says. Do you think you'll know when you? Do you think you'll know when? That you'll just feel it? Maybe yes, maybe no. But it will happen relatively quickly. When you get that, when you meet somebody, Geneva, you'll start to recognize there's something special. You may not know what it is right up front, but you're going to. You may not be able to say that, yeah, I'm going to marry this person, or they are my soulmate on the first date, but you will start to see signs. You'll start to see characteristics. You'll start to feel that, yeah, this is really easy. It's kind of like fitting a hand in a glove. And so it is a process, and it can take a couple of dates. And you may not be able to put your finger on it right away, but you're going to feel a sense that, yeah, there's something a little bit different here. He gets my sense of humor. She laughs at my jokes. Whatever it might be. There's a sense of something. Now, that doesn't mean to say that it can't all come crumbling down or come crashing down. It most certainly can. And you have to pay attention to the whole process, Geneva. It's not just a matter of finding somebody that gives you butterflies or in the tummy or tingly toes or weak knees. Those are temporary feelings. Those are the feelings that of infatuation and the raging hormones. Those are the things that will pass. What you need to be looking for is that connection, and I wish I could. I wish there was a way of quantifying the feeling, the connection. When you start to make a connection with somebody, you're going to start to see that you can talk about anything and everything over a period of time. You're going to see that that you're going to have a lot more similarities than you are differences. You're going to start recognizing that you may even have some habits that are the same as the other. And it's just like, oh, okay. And if you find things that are different, you're going to see that, oh, okay, well, let's adjust this, I'll adjust this, you adjust that, and you start figuring out how you fit together. You start figuring out how you work together. And it still is a process. There's the biggest fear that I have is that people dive into relationships and they're not paying attention to all of the signs. And that's why it's so important to have your must-have and your deal-breaker list, so you can be able to step back from the infatuation and the raging hormones to say, okay, are there any warning signs? Are there any red flags? Or does he have, in your case, Geneva, does he have everything I'm looking for? Does he have this, and this? And if he does, if he has everything you're looking for and none of the warning signs, then everything should be going forward. Full, maybe not full speed ahead, but but moving forward. But you have to pay attention, because there are going to be things that will slip in that saying, oh, where'd that come from? And you have to be careful that when you start seeing some of these little things start creeping in, that you don't say, oh yeah, I can handle that. Just everything is so good over here. I can live with this over here, and it's so easy to slip into that trap. And Geneva says, yes, I just broke my own heart with that feeling of the infatuation. Yes, is part of the process. Yes, it is. And infatuation is a great part of it. It's fun, it's exciting, but you have to be able to step back, because so often relationships, couples end up in bed way too soon. They don't take time to get to know each other. They don't learn about each other sufficiently. Ideally, you want to get to know each other and avoid the bedroom until after you're married, or until you're married. The reality is, about 80% of couples are going to end up in bed on or before the 8th date. That's statistically speaking. If you can wait longer than that, awesome. But and my point there is that when you start jumping into bed, that's what the relationship becomes about. It's all fun and exciting, for the first few months. But then it starts wearing off, and then the infatuation starts to wear off, and you start peeling back the layers of emotions attached to the sexual aspect of it, and saying, oh crap, what did I do? This is not the right relationship. This is not the relationship I was looking for. And it's then you got to start untangling all of these emotions. You got to start untangling all of these feelings, and then you got to start peeling everything back and pushing back and probably walking away, because it's not a great relationship. So it's so important to be able to step back from those emotions and try to get to know somebody. That's one of the reasons I actually enjoy online dating. I actually enjoy long distance relationships, because you can take time to get to know somebody. You can take time to have conversations without the interference of the physical presence of each other's physical presence in the mix. So, hey Anna, thanks for joining in. And Anna says, "Hi Rick, soda beer. Someone once told you will start to feel the joy rising. No one specific thing, but just a joyful feeling about someone." Absolutely, and but again, you have to pay attention. You have to pay attention to that joyful feeling. Yes, the right person will make you feel incredibly good, and it's just. And again, like I was trying to share with Geneva, I do not have the mental capacity or the vocabulary capacity or the vocabulary to adequately describe what it's like when you're in that kind of a relationship. I mean, because it just transcends. It transcends the intellectual, spiritual, emotional, and physical connection. It transcends the 5 love languages, or your personal top couple of love languages. It transcends the must-have and the deal-breaker list. All these things come together, but it still boils down to that chemistry, and that is rare. It's not as rare as you think, but it's rare because we don't wait for it. We don't look for it. We typically mistake that for the infatuation and the raging hormones of a new relationship. And so we just have to be careful about how you proceed. And when Anna, when you start to feel those feelings, when you start to feel those senses coming up, take your must-have list and your deal-breaker list and just step back out of that joy for just a minute and say, okay, does this appear to be on track? What are the landmines that I could be seeing? And be realistic about it. Step back and take a look at it. You don't have to spend weeks there. Spend a couple of hours and say, yeah, what are some of the pitfalls? What are some of the landmines that I might not be seeing here? And if you're not seeing anything, then step back in. And just continue to watch where it goes. And I'm not trying to tell anybody to put a wet rag on their relationship, on a new relationship, and say, just take all the emotion out of it. No, but you have to be able to step back from some of that emotion and be able to look at things realistically or logically. Because I guarantee you, if we go simply by emotion, we are going to end up screwed up every single time. Our emotions will do more to hijack us than anything else we can do. So it's while the emotions are fun, the emotions are important, you still have to step back and take a look at things logically, and make sure that you're doing all the right things for all the right reasons. Just because he's cute doesn't mean that he's a keeper. Just because she's smart doesn't mean she's a keeper. We still have to take responsibility for what we do. We still have to take responsibility for the relationships we get into. We still have to take responsibility for our emotions. We are the ones that have to control those things. And if we're not in control, we forfeit a lot of happiness, because we end up chasing emotions down these rabbit trails. And and that's where Geneva, we were talking a little bit early. earlier, that we get hijacked with our emotions, and pretty soon we've got a broken heart again. And that's why it's so important to Geneva, and I'm focusing on you, Geneva, because this is where this conversation started. It's so important to keep track of our emotions, and not let them hijack us and let us go down these crazy trails of oh, I love him, oh, he's so nice, he's so, and then all of a sudden the infatuation and the raging hormones wear off, and all of a sudden it's like, holy crap, what did I do? And Geneva, you're not there alone. I've been there multiple times, but it's so easy to get sucked in, and please, I don't want anybody to walk away from this tonight saying, oh, Rick is such a downer. He just doesn't like emotions being involved with relationships. Yes, I do, because they make the relationship so good. But we also have to be realistic, and we have to look at the logical aspect of, does he have everything we want? Does she show any of the red flags or warning signs on my list? And then you have to make some determinations from there. And even if you decide that yeah, this looks really good, doesn't mean that in 6 months something's not going to happen and blow up. You may find an unreasonable personality characteristic that say, no, I'm not dealing with that, and then you have to let go. But on the other hand, when you take your time, when you're going through this whole process, and it is a process, and it takes, and you have to learn how to date in this process. You have to know, number one, you have to be mentally and emotionally ready to date. You can't be fresh out of a new relationship, or out of a divorce, or just out of a broken relationship and diving back in again. That's a great way to start developing a toxic relationship, because you haven't gotten rid of any of the emotions that are tied to your last partner. And that takes time. That there's no magic wand that Ricky can wave over anybody and say, oh, poof, you're okay. Go out and date and have a good time. It takes time. How do you know that you're okay to start dating? Well, number one, you're not holding grudges against an ex. Number two, you don't carry a lot of anger about the opposite sex in general. You don't complain about dating and all the crap that goes along with dating. Those ideas are just not there. When you're emotionally ready to date, you're not going to worry about a bad date here and a bad date there. You'll have more bad dates than you will good ones, unless you're really lucky and pick really well. But even then, you're still going to have bad dates. You're going to have one and dones. And I'm not trying to bring anybody down here. I'm just trying to be realistic. I'm Captain Realistic here. So the idea is that you pay attention. We all want that emotional connection to someone. We all want that extraordinary, that soulmate relationship, that soulmate connection. But we have to pay attention, and that's part of the responsibility that we have to take for ourselves and for our partners. If you see that they're not the right one for you, you have to step up and say, yeah, this just isn't working for me. Or if you see that they're not, that the other one's not the right one, then be just as open. You may be You may see them as your soulmate, but if they're not on board, you're going to have to accept the response or accept the consequences of, yeah, I can understand that, and move on. And that is never easy. So anyway, it's never easy moving on. I hate leaving you guys. I hate moving on till next Monday. But we're an hour in, we're at 7 o'clock, and I want to thank you all for joining in. I hope this was good for you. I hope this was somewhat informative, and hopefully a little bit lighthearted. And hopefully next week I'll be in my room next door, and we'll be in a whole new environment. And anyway, I want to thank everybody, and Geneva, you're very welcome. I'm so glad I'm so glad that I can help. And if anybody else needs help, you'll feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to share how I've worked with others, either through books, through courses, through one-on-one coaching. It's all available, and you're very welcome, Glenn. Glad to see you are here, and I will see you all next week. I love you guys, and if you have any comments, drop me a note, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Love you guys. See you next Monday for Monday Mastery. Right here. Same Bat Cave, same Bat channel.